Hello everybody, thanks a lot for joining. As you know, this is the third session of a series of workshops about the unconscious mind. In our last session, we talked about the interpretation of dreams and how all dreams after interpretation have a meaning. And that meaning is wish fulfillment. Today, we will build on that. We will have a look at typical dreams and nightmares. If you have any questions, I will answer them after the presentation. I will send the recording for those of you who could not attend, and of course, for those of you who attended, so that you can watch it again. Let's start. We have seen that after interpretation, all dreams are unconscious wish fulfillment. Let's see now some typical dreams. Dreams most of us have at some point. Dreams can be very complex to interpret. The ones I have chosen are extremely simple. I want to show you the main findings Freud did in an easy to understand way. All dreams help us to sleep. Sleeping is absolutely necessary. Protecting our sleep is one of the functions of dreams. Dreams are called guardians of sleep. In the case of comfort dreams, this function is even more evident. Think it this way. If dreams are unconscious wishes, this gives fulfillment. These wishes have been rejected by the consciousness. If the wish showed up directly, we would wake up. We will see this in coming sessions. I know that you are not understanding everything for now. Please keep listening. Let's now have a look to some typical dreams. You will probably have had some of this at some point. Thirst dream. Imagine you had something very salty for dinner, and that night you dream you are drinking water. This dream also shows something very clearly. Dreams are wish fulfillment only in psychical reality. What does this mean? It means that in the end, I need to wake up and have a glass of water to calm down my thirst in reality. This is very clear in children. They dream they go to the toilet and then they wet the bed. Again, here it's very clear how dreams are wish fulfillment in our psychical reality. Another dream. A student of medicine whose alarm clock sounds and he dreams he is already in hospital, so he doesn't have to wake up because he is already there. These dreams show very clearly the difference between objective reality and psychical reality. Psychical reality is the reality of each person. Psychoanalysis cares for this reality. Remember, in my previous session, I explained that the psychoanalyst will work on the speech of the patient, on what he says in the session. The work of the psychoanalyst is not to go to the real life of the person and check if what he says is true or not. That would be the job of a detective. Let's go a bit further. You might argue, okay, but those comfort dreams you mentioned are not fulfilling an unconscious wish. They are fulfilling organic needs. And yes, you are right. Those dreams are fulfilling organic needs. But there is always an unconscious wish fulfilled in a dream. To prove this, Freud used dreams of children. Let's see it with a famous dream from Anna Freud. When she was 5 years old, she had an upset stomach, and their parents didn't allow her to eat anything the day before. That night, she was dreaming and she was saying out loud, Anna Freud, strawberries, raspberries, chocolate, all the food she wanted to eat the night before, but she was not allowed. Dreams are always wish fulfillment because they go beyond the need. She does not dream that she eats whatever. She dreams she eats what she likes. Even more, in this dream, Anna Freud is skipping the ban of not being allowed to eat by their parents. We will leave this for another session when we talk about the Oedipus complex. What about sad dreams? For example, the death of a loved one. Believe it or not, they are also wish fulfillment. Remember that in order to interpret a dream, the patient needs not only to tell the dream, but also to freely associate. The psychoanalyst will then be able to interpret the dream of that person. Let's see it with an example. Freud had a patient who had dreamt one of her nephews, her favorite one, had died. She was horrified. She could not believe that she had wished her nephew to die. She told Freud the dream, and Freud asked her, "What comes to your mind with this dream?" She associated freely, and after interpretation, Freud could interpret that the wish behind her dream was in fact to see the man she was in love with. It happened that another of her nephews had died some months ago, and that man had attended his funeral. So she was hoping that he would attend also to this funeral and she would be able to see him. As you can see, this dream shows that reality is definitely not what it seems. There are other typical dreams like shame of being naked, failing an exam we have already passed. These dreams, again, seem to go against the principle all dreams are wish fulfillment. However, we saw with the example of the woman who dreamt her nephew died to be able to see her loved one, that in order to interpret a dream, the patient needs to associate freely. There is not a universal way to interpret dreams. However, in typical dreams, it seems there is. Why is that? What is the source of those typical dreams? The Oedipus complex. As you can see, it is quite complex and everything is intertwined. I promise I will deep dive into the Oedipus complex in coming sessions, but for now, let's continue with dreams of death. If we dream someone we love dies and we are not sad, that is not a typical dream like the ones we have seen before. It is the only case in which our unconscious wish shows exactly as it is. Wish of death. Example, I wish my brother dies and I dream my brother dies. Why don't we even care to distort such a wish in our dream? Because it is a wish that we have pushed so far away from the consciousness that even when we dream it, we don't notice. When we wake up, we censor it and we don't link it to our wishes. It's because the other day when I saw him, he didn't look good. That is why I dreamt he died. We tend to transform it into a worry, normally a worry related to his health. To Freud, dreams of death of brothers is one of the typical examples. We all have something with our brothers or sisters. He analyzed dreams of children and of neurotic patients, and he realized that all of them had at some point dreamt, wished the death of a loved one, especially brothers or sisters or the parent of the same sex. Even a patient who was trying to contradict Freud, no, I have never dreamt with the death of a loved one. How would I do that? One day, she told to Freud the following dream. When I was a child, I was playing in the garden with my cousins and brothers, and all of a sudden, they all got wings and left flying. As you can see, she killed them. We need to bear in mind that children don't know what death is. They can't imagine it is forever. So for them, death is like disappearing. They are gone flying. So it's not like she wants them to die. Another example would be Little Hans. It's a very famous case of Freud, a 5-year-old boy with a phobia. When his sister is born, he became sick with very high fever, and in his delirium, he said, I don't want to have a sister. Take her away. Children are absolutely narcissists. Altruism is something we learn. Loving others set limits to our narcissism, and education is always through love. When kids renounce to something, it's for love to their parents. So, wish of death needs to be interpreted. It might be that we only want that person to be away from us. What about nightmares? Nightmares are anxiety dreams. Anxiety dreams interrupt our sleep. Anxiety dreams are more related to anxiety than to dreams. It's not that I dream and then I get anxious. It is because I am anxious that I have a nightmare, an anxiety dream. If I'm not anxious, I don't have nightmares. Nightmares happen to awake me. Anxiety wakes me up to interrupt the fulfillment of my unconscious wish. This is very frequent in kids, especially in boys with their dad. They wake up calling their dad to check they are alive. Why would they do that? Let's see it with an example. Again, a patient of Freud, a 3-year-old kid that had the following dream. A thief came in the middle of the night to the house and I was stabbing him on the legs. It turned out that the thief was his dad. Why would a kid try to stab his dad? Again, this kid was 3 years old, so the source of his dream is the Oedipus complex. He feels a lot of love for his dad, but also a lot of rivalry. Why do nightmares repeat over and over again? Why would we repeat situations that are unpleasant for us? Later, in 1920, Freud, in his work Beyond the Pleasure Principle, explained why we repeat things that are apparently unpleasant. And that is because it might be unpleasant for our conscience, but not for our unconscious mind. For now, let's just say that we all need time to elaborate psychically what happened to us. Let's say we have a car accident, for example, and then we dream over and over again with the accident. It is the time we need to elaborate what happens. We will see how repetition is a way to elaborate psychically that situation that was too much for us. If we are in analysis, in psychoanalysis, the process will be quicker and shorter. If the dream repeats over and over again, it might not be an anxiety dream, but a traumatic neurosis. We have to look into each case separately and analyze it. Let's leave it here for now. Again, I think I already gave a lot of information, and not sure if you realize, but the Oedipus complex is the source of the typical dreams and nightmares. So next day, I will explain you what is this of the Oedipus complex and what is at the origin of our unconscious wishes. I hope you are enjoying and you join me in next session. So thank you very much. I am now going to stop the share. And hopefully you can see me.